What is the best Persona game? Coming off the back of the record-breaking Persona 3 Reload launch, the age-old discussion in the Persona community has sprung about yet again, where each game has its ardent defenders and they must form the line and dig their trenches to engage in warfare of, well, internet discourse, I guess, as to which game is the best in the franchise and how everyone else is wrong but them. Well, in this video, I want to talk about this concept of what is the best Persona game, because I think it's by analyzing this concept and the further this conversation can strike, we can really delve into the heart and soul of what makes Persona so beloved. And I think it's because it follows what I like to call the Final Fantasy blueprint. And this isn't a debate about whether or not Final Fantasy did it first or whatever. I just have a lot of experience with that franchise, and I came to know that one of the reasons I love Final Fantasy so much is because of this concept that I also think applies to Persona, and that is the idea that you have each of these separate experiences that operate under the same overarching umbrella for the series. But each individual entry, while feeling like it belongs as a member of that series, has its own heart, soul, and identity. And a lot of the times, its own feel, tone, and atmosphere. And the games work off this idea of feeling like they belong to either Final Fantasy or Persona or whatever other franchise we want to talk about here. Because there's many others you can categorize under this umbrella description, right? To where they may have similar mechanics, aesthetics, or whatever, but each individual entry has its own unique identity. And Persona really emphasizes this idea with Persona 3, Persona 4, and Persona 5, the games I have the most experience with, really the only ones, and even P1 and P2 to their own regards, have their own feel and look and, well, tone to them. Every Persona game, that at least that I've played, goes between having comedic moments, moments of lightheartedness, funny moments, but also they can pivot over to those really serious, emotional, heavy moments that can be really sad, depressing, or just emotional for whatever reason. Every game can have that, but if we're viewing it on a sliding scale and saying on average, what is the overall tone and atmosphere for these games, I would argue P3 is the darker game of 3, 4, and 5. 4 is the lighthearted game, bearing in mind it can also get dark, just on the whole I think it's more comedic aligned than the other ones. And Persona 5 tends to... it is emotional, right? But I tend to find that P5 relies on being more hype than necessarily being upbeat or depressing. It can get to those moments, don't get me wrong, but on the whole, it tends to rely on these really bombastic hype moments, especially with the calling cards and the music blaring on and all these big culminations. P5 tends to go more so for hype and leans in that direction. They all have a finger in each pie, it's just each game puts 2 fingers in a certain pie. And by doing this, well, you give each game its own unique identity, flair, and style, and tone, and its overall formula. And that overall formula for each game is going to resonate with different people. By design. That's why P3, 4, and 5 all have their own ardent defenders and fan bases, because those games likely speak to people on some sort of level, or at least appeal to different types of people. People who want a darker story on average that deals with heavier themes like death, coping with death, understanding death, guilt, and all of that. People that really like and resonate with those themes may really enjoy Persona 3 in whatever iteration or form that it takes. People that like that more upbeat style, with way more comedy shoved in on a more consistent and frequent basis, may really vibe with Persona 4. There's other reasons, don't get me wrong, this isn't the only reason you would vibe with each of these games, just one of the overarching reasons. Because I think Persona 4 also really focuses in on inter-party dynamics between the characters. And it has a more forward-focused push on the dynamics of the main party with one another, instead of necessarily focusing on the overall plot going around them. Persona 5 is extremely stylized and has this overall focus and feel on rebelling against society in an unjust world, no longer hiding yourself from yourself, P4 also shares this idea as well, but accepting the rebel within and the idea that you can enact change on a societal level, all while understanding that you can change and that your desires and your mental state, you can change and grow and move into the future and not be stuck in the present or the past. And if those themes really resonate with you, chances are P5 may resonate with you more. However, in this regard, P4 also takes a similar mindset, where P4 focuses in on accepting yourself, flaws and all, or insecurities and all. Learning to accept and love yourself so that you can, well, just continue to move on and do some good and reach out for the truth. That's an underlying and focal theme of Persona 4, whereas in Persona 5, the idea is pivoted a little bit, shifted if you will, sidestepped, to the idea of no longer accepting the world around you and realizing that, yeah, you are kind of pissed off at it. Accept the rebel within. And the past can suck. It can really suck. And drag us down and breed insecurities or doubt and fear and trepidation, but accept it for what it is, the past, and the idea that you can move into the future with your own two legs and your own force of will. It's a similar concept, but it's pivoted a little bit, shifted, individualized for the respective game. And this is an idea that Persona utilizes for each of its main entries, where they may share similar methodologies and ideas and concepts, but they're pivoted and shifted, twisted and turned in such a way to be unique and representative for the game that is there on display. Persona 4 has this overall, murder mystery going on. Persona 3 has the mystery of where do the shadows come from? What happened in the accident 10 years ago? What's behind Aigis' ribbon? All this kind of stuff, you know? The main overarching themes of the game. Now, that doesn't mean everything is necessarily perfect and just appeals to a different audience. There are some aspects to each of the Persona games that I think could be improved in the future, and that's something that I do think Atlus takes to heart in a lot of ways. If you play P3, then 4, then 5, at least the original P3, and you move in that order, you can see the changes that the series has undergone with each new iteration, and what Atlus believes will make the product better in the end, and what changes they have enacted, especially when it comes to the gameplay and dungeon design and all of that. You go from Tartarus to the dungeons of P4 to the palaces of P5 alongside Mementos, and then the changes Mementos even undergoes, going from base P5 to Royal. Now, when it comes to me personally, what do I like the best out of each Persona game? For me, I love the cast of characters of P4, they're just easily my favorite. And it's something about the way that they're written and actively developed and the overall pacing of P4 that resonates strongly with me. And it's that style of storytelling and character development that I like the most out of Persona. But when it comes in terms of the overall arcing plot and story and developing and fleshing that one out, I'm more of a fan of P5 Royal, especially when it concerns the third semester. Is it a perfect game? No. But in terms of unraveling the overarching main plot of a game, P5 does it in a style that I find more resonates with me, especially in regards to pacing, which is one of my major issues with P3. I tend to find the first half of the game to be rather slow, and I think not having actual social links for the members of C's that unlock at any point for the guys, but even then for the girls, they take most of the game to even unlock. I tend to prefer how P4 and P5 does it, where you just unlock them when they introduce to the main party, and then over time you add and add onto it, and they're integrated into the party, and then there you go. That's a formula that I find really works for me. But there's going to be a lot of people out there that just simply resonate with the style of P3 and how that game tackles these issues and tackles ideas of character development and fleshing out individual character arcs. And I feel we really downplay and undersell the importance of delivery and tone and atmosphere, because in a lot of ways it matters more to a lot of people than the actual execution of an idea. If someone really wants a cheeseburger, you may give them the best hot dog of all time, but they really wanted a cheeseburger, even if it's not the same, comparative quality to the hot dog you were going to give them. That's not a knock on the hot dog, it's just the personal preference and flavor, taste of the person, of the consumer. That makes sense. And when you have a franchise that specializes in having each of these, like, separate games that have their own unique tone, atmosphere, and identity, these games then will draw an audience of people that resonate to those ideas. And I think that's one of the special things about Persona and why I like it so much, because I'm someone who likes a lot of variety. Give me any one thing for too long and I'll get sick of it and kind of bored. I like having that variety. I like having P3 be a darker game. And then I like being able to go to P4 and have a more upbeat time on the average. And I like sending calling cards out in Persona 5 with rivers in the desert or whatever. Last surprise. I believe. I like having that variety because it appeals to me, where each game still feels like Persona, but they have their own unique identity. And they feel different. It's a different flavor of the month for me. And that's something that I think is really special and intrinsic to the Persona formula, and something that I hope carries on over to Persona 6. I don't want to see Persona 6 just be another P3, 4, or 5. I want P6 to be able to forge its own identity, have its own themes, messages, tone, and to feel completely individualized and unique, and be able to stand on its own just like P5, 4, or 3 can. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the idea of what is the best Persona game. Just kind of depends upon what you really like. There's some methodologies in the games that could be better, or better executed in my opinion, but I tend to find most of the time, at least in my experience, your favorite Persona game will be the one that just, well, has the theme or tone that resonates the most with you. And that's what makes the series so special in my opinion. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. Hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload and stream in the future. Stay safe. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.